How much damage has been done at this point?
Well, I think we don't know yet. I think with the public, the initial sense is not a lot of damage yet. They want to watch this and see what happens. I think the real question is, where the public is, I think, is fine. There are serious issues here, particularly with the IRS. Investigate. But worry about us. I think that's the big question for Washington. Are they going to become so obsessed with this that it's all they do? And does things like immigration and the economy and deficits get crowded out?
Well, look at what happened this weekend, Matt Dowd. The president, in his weekly radio address, talked about jobs, talked about the economy, but nobody was listening to that. How hard is it going to be for him to bring those issues back to the front of the agenda for the American public?
Well, impossible in the course of this environment right now, but what you have to do, as David knows, and anybody that's worked at the White House or been involved in this, you have to let this pass before you can really sort of consume any oxygen that's around. And right now, there's not any other oxygen to be consumed other than this, what's going on in Washington related to these controversies. But let me give you a visual of why this affects a president. A president in a second term what you have is political capital, and you have limited political capital. It's like being handed a bucket of water, and your bucket of water is all the political capital you have. You can't add any more to it. You have to use it in the course of the presidency. What happens in controversies like this is that a president gets knocked around, spilled some of his water, or has to jump over some hurdles, spills a little bit more of his water, and that is the problem in a thing like this, is that your capital that you have, that you had limited amount of, some of it gets spilled in the course of this, and it prevents you from doing what you might want to do otherwise in the course of this.
Let's get some gray hair in here. That wouldn't be Matt Dowd. It wouldn't be David Plouffe. Here's Al Hunt writing it up on where we are right now on the president. The controversies are undermining the president. His slow, reactive, passive, and cavalier responses are playing into critics' hands. Democrats outside the White House want the president to be more proactive. Matt, I'm going to let both of you answer this. Matt Dowd, there's been a real change over the weekend with how the White House deals with this, isn't there?
Well, I mean, I think the White House, when this thing happens, is you have to give them you have to have some pause. Let's find out what the information is, and let's check things out before we sort of shoot first. I think they have reacted in the course of the last 72 hours very, very quickly and very succinctly in the course of this. There's now been 2 people that have basically been fired from the IRS. There's a gathering information. There's a request for lots of other things. It sometimes takes a little while to get your feet in the middle of this, and once you get your feet, that's when you have to judge how decisions are made.
David Plouffe, would you see more firings this week?
Oh, I don't know about that. I think Matthew made a good point, though, by the way. You talked about Twitter. In the media world we live in right now, people say, why didn't you deal with this in the first hour the story broke? That's irresponsible. By the way, for a company, for any organization that's going through a scandal.
So
you got to get it right.
Has the White House been too slow in its response?
My sense is not, because they needed to figure out what they were dealing with. And the worst thing, by the way, is to prematurely jump into something in any kind of damage control situation, because you compound the problems. So take a little grief for taking a little time to try and get the response right. But obviously, we're just in the first innings of this, and how they respond over the next few weeks here is going to be critical.
Can we talk about something else? Okay, here's Chris Cillizza in the Washington Post this week, and a lot of really good stuff on this effort. The president's rapid ascent up the political ladder was defined by bridging what were thought to be unbridgeable gaps. The question now is whether there is a ladder big enough to bridge 2 opposing political Americas. There is an election in 2014. Rumor. Matt Dowd, can we get back to discussing 2 Americas?
Well, I think there are 2 Americas right now, and part of the problem we have is that it's extremely polarized in this. The benefit the Democrats have right now is the America that they represent is bigger than the American the Republicans are speaking for right now. That's a problem politically. Midterms are always indictments on presidents and what's going on in administration. It's always hard to climb that hurdle, so a president's always in trouble in a midterm. The question is, can he limit the damage from a midterm?